California was once the golden promise of the American dream, and now it's a cautionary tale. My guest today is Chris Moritz, and he's here with his blistering new book that pulls back the curtain on what he calls a failed state, run by bureaucratic decay, ideological capture, and corporate exploitation that masquerades as progress. From exploding crime rates to collapsing infrastructure, from housing chaos to medical overreach, Moritz lays out how California became ground zero for a culture war with real casualties. And then we take a deep dive into the growing industry behind transgender care for kids and how profit, politics, and identity have collided in ways few of us are willing to discuss out loud, but everyone needs to know. Let's jump in. Keeping it real with Jillian Michaels. Chris Moritz, welcome. How are you?
I'm wonderful, delighted to be here, so thrilled to meet you finally, and just amazed by your studio.
Oh, you're very kind. For people who are just discovering you or discovering how I discovered you, I happened upon your arguably first episode with Tucker.
Yes.
Where you were talking about Transgender Inc.
Yeah.
And I want to get to all of that, but essentially the fact that it is big business, gender affirming care. And I looked at that solely from a health perspective at the time and just thought, okay, these are do-gooders that don't really understand health and can't comprehend what these medications are meant to do, either chemical castration or off-label cancer drugs. And they also don't really understand what happens when you interrupt puberty. And they're just misguided and misunderstood. And then, well-intentioned, not knowledgeable. When you outlined how diabolical gender-affirming medicine is, it blew my mind open, and you and I have been going back and forth on X for some time.
It gets worse, actually.
We'll table that. Table that too, SAG, table all of that, because I want to start with the new book.
Yes.
So, Failed State, A Portrait of California in the Twilight of an Empire. Available everywhere?
Amazon would be a good spot, but I hope it's available everywhere.
It better be available. I mean, it's a monster. Skyhorse Publishing should be available everywhere.
Yes. They're great. Skyhorse actually publishes RFK Jr.'s books.
Yep.
And Melania Trump's.
Thank God for them.
They're fantastic.
Thank God for them.
I struggled too initially. The traditional publishing houses were very reticent about delving into California. And I think that stems from the fact that these firms are in New York, right? And New York just doesn't give a shit about California, if I can,
of course,
say that.
Oh, absolutely.
They just don't. They don't understand California. East Coast just doesn't get the West Coast, despite the fact, as we just learned, we're the fourth largest economy in the world.
Is it the? I thought it was the fifth.
It went from fifth to fourth.
Wow! How?
Well, that number is nominal. GDP reflection instead of real GDP reflection, which takes into account inflation.
Okay.
So a lot of that is inflation. And really a lot of that, so Gavin Newsom has been touting this like new designation as evidence of the success of the state. But it is, it's sophistry. It's an illusion. Because that growth, that GDP growth, is really coming from a very small number of technology giants.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Mega corporations.
Of course. Why didn't I ever
like
put that together?
NVIDIA, for instance.
Of course.
So that is really the contributing factor. What it doesn't take into account for is quality of life. So, almost 40% of the state's population is on some form of social welfare. The gap in wealth between the top 1%, which you have to make $1.5 million to be in the top 1% in California, and the bottom, I think 20%, which is that at $17,000 a year, it's 67 times. And we have also seen over the last 10 years, 6.5 million Californians have left the state. That is, and these are primarily middle-class people. They've left because big corporations have left. 252 Fortune 500 companies have left the state in recent years. This includes Charles Schwab, Oracle, Tesla, and others.
And taking the jobs with them.
Right. And this is not just a recent development. This has been going on for many, many years, starting with aerospace and defense, which is a very significant factor in how we are the political economy that we are.
I want to read this. I intended to open with it, and it's on the press sheet for the book, and it really encapsulates the things we're going to touch upon. In Failed State, Christopher Moritz dissects the unraveling of the Golden State with the precision of a lawyer, the depth of a historian, and the heartbreak of a California native son who has witnessed its collapse firsthand. That spoke to me as a California native daughter. Through disturbing, relentless detail drawn from whistleblowers, law enforcement insiders, and classified reports, he exposes the corrosive and deadly impact of progressive policies that have prioritized criminals over victims, cartels over citizens, and ideological dogma over law and order. Of course, it goes on from there, but I wanted to start there in particular because if you don't care about California, like you just said, people in New York don't get it, they don't care. It's the policies. And the policies, I would argue, are contagious.
Yes.
We're seeing them crop up in blue cities across the country. People are posting, this is Portland. And it's like homeless people flopped out with
it's a cancer.
Their own excrement. And this is Seattle, and you have the chop zone of a takeover of downtown.
Seattle might actually be worse.
I've heard that.
It's worse.
I have heard the same. Now you're seeing Denver. I have friends in Colorado that are now leaving Colorado to go to Wyoming.
Yep.
And you're just seeing this mass exodus. And you already referenced jobs, of course, but then it becomes, why are the companies leaving and all of that? And there's so much to cover here, but I want the listener to understand this is not just about California. If you don't live in California,
90% of the fentanyl that comes into the United States enters through ports of Los Angeles. Okay. Or I should say California ports of entry. Let me rephrase that. 90% of the fentanyl in the United States enters through ports of entry in California.
Oh my God, I thought it was actually the northern border.
It's both borders, but most is coming from the south. Although I've heard that's actually shifting towards biker gangs in Canada, producing fentanyl because it's very cheap to produce.
Okay, but nothing in comparison to what's coming across.
Look, we can get into a lot of aspects of the. This is a book about crime. I should specify.
Yeah.
There are so many angles to what is wrong with California. But my story is about crime, and I believe that it's very It began with a personal experience.
Go.
So in 2023, my family house in Santa Monica was burglarized, sort of home invasion style, 2 nights in a row on one weekend by an MS-13 gangster, illegal alien, a dreamer, who had served 7 years in California State Prison for gun crimes, and then immediately upon release from state prison in 2018 was deported by the Trump administration to El Salvador. He came back into the country during the Biden invasion and then began a crime spree in the fall of 2023, hitting dozens of houses all over LA County and in the north in Ventura County. He was ultimately only prosecuted and charged with 2 counts of these. What he did to me was never actually, there were no charges ever brought against him for that, for me. He even robbed a judge's house in LA, a judge who had presided over the Michael Jackson wrongful death case. But in Los Angeles County, under George Gascón, we had a situation of decriminalization of hosts of crime. Property crime in particular was considered basically a non-offense, and certainly nothing that the DA's office was going to take seriously. So he got sentenced in Ventura, because LA wouldn't take it, to 2 years, which I'm sure he'll serve less, and a $300 fine. So you think about that. If any one of us committed, tax evasion, we're going to go away for a lot longer than 2 years. Or if you were involved in at the Capitol on January 6th, you were in solitary confinement for 5 years. This guy had every indication that he was a murderer, and an MS-13 gangster. He had his face tattoos removed before he snuck back into the country when he was in El Salvador. So I realized that after this happened and the aftermath of it, and I learned these details from the officers, that this was just so profoundly awful and shocking to me, and shattered my perception of safety in a place like Santa Monica.
Can I? I'm sorry. I'm dying to jump in here.
Please.
And here's why. Same thing happened, except one night, not 2 in a row. Not a gang member, a criminal who, or maybe a gang member, but not illegal, as far as I ever came to understand it. Breaks into my house. We were home. Long story short, steals my bag, takes my car.
Did you encounter him?
No, and he was friggin' right behind me.
Wow.
So my dogs, we were actually waiting for the night nurse, which is why the door had been unlocked. And he went into the garage and down the side of our house and into through the balcony and into the kitchen. And the dogs were like, "Arr!" And I thought maybe they were growling at the night nurse coming in, and I didn't want them to wake up the kids because the kids were young. This was 10 years ago. And I'm like, guys, shut up. I was like, they're going to wake the baby. I just got him to sleep. And long story short, I wake up the next morning. My car's gone. Can't find my bag. Can't find my computer. Put it all together.
They stole your car too?
So they took my keys and they stole the car.
Sorry, when was this?
So this was probably 10 years ago. Okay. You can read about it in TMZ still to this day. But the part that's so bananas is he commits a series of robberies in my car. And then ends up in a high-speed chase with the police where they catch him with all this stolen stuff in my car. And he proceeds to tell them that he's my lover. Mind you, he'd just gotten out of jail a few days prior, okay? I'm also gay and openly gay, living with my wife and my newborn son and my newly adopted daughter in the house. That I asked him to bring me cocaine so we could go wait, Chris, you're laughing, but here's where it gets crazy. So we could go party at the chateau. But what ended up happening was I had framed him because I had robbed all of these people and then had him get in my car and framed him for these robberies. And the cops believed him.
What?
I swear to God. And they questioned me. My lawyer had to get involved. And then he stood trial, defended himself, and got a hung jury.
No way.
I swear, this is how crazy California is. So people were like, she has a real issue with cops. It's like, I used to, but not because they're racist. Quite the opposite issue that I had with the police in California. Actually, they literally questioned me. They're like, you could tell us the truth. I could not believe it. I'm like, number one, I'm famous for health and wellness. I'm openly gay. 2 new babies. Were you insane? He just got out of jail 3 days ago.
Did he have a gang background?
Chris, I don't know. He said that he knew me, and I go, great. How does he know me? What's my phone number? Are you serious? I could not believe it. And it was that's when I realized. And then Newsome let them all out of jail during COVID.
Yeah.
And I got the letter like, hey, we let all these guys out of jail, which is ridiculous because it had been proven that the jails were safer because it was a quarantined environment, and let them all out of jail. I get the letter. And that's when I started to see when we were robbed. Oh, and when they pulled him over, he had duct tape, a video camera, a knife, the whole thing in the back of the car.
Wow.
So I can't help it. He had the same
that's
freaking experience.
Incredible.
And he got a hung jury. I had to go back and put him back in jail a second time.
Yeah, that's what makes that I'm just flabbergasted.
California in a nutshell.
Was that LA County or?
It was Malibu, but they tried him at I think it was Van Nuys Courthouse. So it just goes to show you how the police were functioning, how the citizens of the state gave him a hung jury defending himself.
Well, okay, so there's a couple things we can touch on that.
But
firstly, you precisely hit on the issue of why I wrote the book, which is Californians can no longer expect to get justice.
Right.
It might happen, but it might not, and it probably won't. At least under the DAs like George Gascón. And when there is decriminalization and defunding police and elimination of bail and so on and so forth, gang enhancements eliminated, it's very clear where our leaders put their priorities, which is on criminals. And the question is why?
I was just going to say, why?
Yeah.
I actually wonder this. And let me throw out what I've uncovered thus far. This is the extent of it. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. And I kind of, sort of, right up until not at all understand. Can't make the connection. I talked to Dave Smith, as you know. It's the bail piece wasn't fair. And this part, we were trying to fix. But he also agrees. He's like, nobody is for lawlessness, decriminalizing crime. How did we get there?
Yeah. So, okay.
Because it's coming to a city near you.
There's a couple of different ways to answer this.
In 4 more years, everybody feels so happy Trump's in office. It's like,
right.
The reason I get pissed when he does something stupid is because it's going to go the other way.
Right.
Yeah. And you think it's just California until it's a countrywide problem.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom wants to be president.
I know.
I'm sorry.
No.
This is your show. Go.
No, it's yours. And I would say that, look, the crime situation in California is directly the result of policies. And these are policies that began, I say, in around 2010 with a bill called AB 109. And AB 109 was a response that California had to make to the Supreme Court based on a decision, relatively shortly before that, called Brown v. Plata. And Brown v. Plata found that California's state prisons were cruel and unusual punishment by virtue of their overcapacity. They were like 200% overcapacity.
Okay.
So the court ruled that the prison population had to be brought down to this very arbitrary number. I think it was like 137.9. So California had to find ways to reconcile with that decision. So they began this, theoretically, on that basis, a process of de-incarceration or addressing the crisis of mass incarceration. And AB 109 was the first salvo in this journey, in this war, I would call it. And AB 109 basically said that if you were a non-violent, non-serious offender, you would be removed from state prison and sent to local jails. The problem with this law is that it is a manipulation of language, and it would firstly only consider the last crime for which you had been convicted, not your criminal history. So studies found that 50% of those released under this program had violent histories. 60% of those released were rearrested within 3 years, and 44% were convicted. Also, the definition of nonviolent was based on technicalities. It was based on certain aspects of the penal code and whether it fell in that category or not, and it ultimately incorporated crimes, even some assault, rape by intoxication,
oh my God,
all sorts of crazy stuff. trafficking like minors. Like it went on and on and on. Kamala Harris was the attorney general at the time of this law, and it was her job to basically implement it as the top law enforcement officer in the state. Now, the local jails did not have the resources to take this influx of criminals, or prisoners, I should say. And ultimately, as we will see again and again, the local jails have to simply release the prisoners.
Why can't we build more jails?
Right, exactly, right, right. That's another good question. So then we go to Prop 47, which I'm sure you know. But what I don't know if you know.
Will you tell everyone though who doesn't know?
Sure,
I of course
course
know this. So let's give them a history.
Prop 47 is the most infamous of these criminal justice reform laws, and it was passed in 2014 by 60% of Californians, and it found that a theft under $950 would be reclassified as a misdemeanor instead of as a felony. Prior to that, the threshold was $400. And this was again to try and like reduce the prison population. But the result was that over the 10 years after Prop 47 came into effect, there's a 114% increase in property or retail theft, and property crime likewise shot up. And California has a double the rate of the rest of the country in terms of property crime. Like it's like we're beyond anyone else. You're more likely to get robbed, beaten, your car stolen, assaulted, and burglarized and in any other state in the country. So Prop 47 passes with 60% of Californians approving it.
And Newsom supported it when he worked as lieutenant governor under Jerry Brown,
yes,
right?
And as did Kamala Harris. So here's the other little nasty thing about it.
The stroke of a pen.
Do you know what it was actually, what it was branded as? The actual name of Prop 47?
I don't.
Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act.
Get out! Shut
Kamala
up.
Harris wrote the language that appeared on the ballot.
Get out.
Yeah. As Attorney General, part of your job is you write all the...
Under what pretense, though? How is she drawing that comparison that allowing people to steal $1,000 makes the neighborhood safe?
Well, I don't believe she coined that title. That title most likely came from political consulting groups. One in particular,
kind of like
up
the Don't
north.
Say Gay bill that was called the Parental Rights
And
in
this is part of the branding, right? These bills are supported and funded by massive interest groups and billionaires, and they're marketed.
They really are.
Right,
like
they're
I'll
marketed.
never forget that I tried to go off piste a bit, but I remember when I found out that the Don't Say Gay bill had nothing to do with saying gay. It was about sex education for kids in like kindergarten through third grade.
Yeah.
And it was called the Parental Rights in Education Act, and they called it the Don't Say Gay bill, and the marketing effort behind
Yeah, it's marketing.
Crazy.
Right. But now, here's something Kamala Harris directly did in terms of the language of as it appeared on the ballot for 47. She omitted the fact that under 47, those who were arrested under these reclassified misdemeanors would no longer be subject to DNA testing that was otherwise mandatory and procedurally just rudimentary. This is extremely important because, as like every study shows, a small number of offenders commit most of the crime.
Wow. So
she omitted this. The Sacramento Bee called her out on it. This resulted in, as you can imagine, like a spike in all sorts of crimes that were just simply not getting caught. 90% of property crimes in it's either LA County or California, I think it's LA County, are not, do not result in an arrest. 90%.
You could call the cops. I'm sorry, I don't want to bash police. I'm grateful every day for them and want them to be funded more and better supported. But the reality is that in California, I think they're so persecuted. I had a car stolen when I was visiting my mom here. And because we were going to take it to auction, and long story short, the car got stolen. And to call the cops, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we're not coming.
Yeah.
If you need to file a report, you can come down to the station."
I experienced the same thing with my robbery.
Like, are you serious? This was recent, Chris.
Yeah.
I had to go to the friggin' police station, and I had to file the report for the insurance company. And the insurance company's like, "Well, did the cops come?" I'm like, "Do you know where I am actually at the moment?"
Yeah.
No, the cops did not come.
Yeah. Look, after my double burglary, hot prowl burglary, Santa Monica police, the detective assigned to it, never even once called me as part of his investigation.
Why do you think? Because they
they just don't care. I think they don't care.
Is it because they don't have the support?
Because they're well, let me put it this way.
Because I know they must imagine they feel like they're not supported.
When I woke up that morning and discovered that my house had been completely turned upside down and every single valuable I ever owned and like heirlooms from my grandparents, it was all gone. I called SMPD and they took 15 hours to show up. And when they got there, I asked them, why did it take so long? And they said, well, we've been just dealing with too many homeless overdoses in Santa Monica.
But you know, I don't know if you know this. I was talking to Adam Carolla recently, and he let me know that Governor Newsom said that's not actually a homeless. Homeless are predominantly moms and kids. And Carolla was telling me this story. Like, that is Gavin Newsom's like, no. The face of homelessness are moms and children.
I mean, I've seen a lot of homeless, and yeah, I'm glad I've not seen moms and kids.
But that's the marketing spin. And, you know, I came to learn...
You may get to that point.
That what they call homeless now is an individual who's classified as not having a stable address. So that could be single moms and kids. But it's like there's a name for the people on the street. It's like the unroofed or something of that nature. I can't remember exactly.
Les Miserables.
Very much so, yes. But that's another branding that it's crazy.
Let me tell you an anecdote that I was told by a very decorated former LA County sheriff who's now in the private security sector for big companies like Google. Google has a huge office complex in Venice by the beach, and a couple of years ago, the homeless or transient camps around that area were beyond belief.
Yep.
I mean, third world level.
It's getting there again, actually.
And so this gentleman who contributed significantly to my book told me that he, as part of his survey and security rounds for Google, would sort of drive up and down the street, and he would see with these homeless camps gangsters basically shaking down every single homeless tent in the area for $25 to $50 a day. So they pay an extortion fee to local gangs. And according to this decorated sheriff who would know, this is rampant across the entire city. So it's a lot worse than people realize. Gavin Newsom also allowed for homeless tents to be protected and require a warrant to enter. So these tents have become dens of murder, drug use, obviously, prostitution, every kind of like savage crime you can think of, rape. It just goes on and on and on. And look, I mean, San Francisco had an 800% increase in fentanyl overdose fatalities over the course of like 5 years, last 5 years. I mean, it is a failed state. Like, I'm not exaggerating with that.
As the temps start to rise, I get that familiar urge to refresh my closet. But I am done wasting money on trendy pieces that I wear once, which is why I'm obsessed with Quince. The clothes are timeless, elevated, built to last, no insane markup. I'm talking about 100% European linen shorts and dresses that start at just $30. Italian leather platform sandals, luxe swimwear that looks straight off a runway but costs half of what you'd expect. Quince partners directly with top-tier factories, cutting out the middleman so you get designer quality at a price that actually makes sense. And they only work with ethical, responsible manufacturers who care about people and the planet. Personally, I stocked up on the linen tees and the tanks, and believe it or not, a killer summer dress. Occasionally, I do wear dresses. And honestly, it finally feels like my wardrobe matches my standards. Upgrade your wardrobe at quince.com. Luxury should never mean compromise. Team, give your summer closet an upgrade with Quince. Go to quince.com/Jillian for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Jillian to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Jillian. Right now, the headlines are chock full of data breaches and regulatory rollbacks, making us all vulnerable. But you can do something about it. Delete Me is here to make it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online. Delete Me knows your privacy is worth protecting. Sign up and provide Delete Me with exactly what information you want deleted, and their experts take it from there. Delete Me isn't just a one-time service. Delete Me is always working for you, constantly monitoring and removing the personal information you do not want on the internet. For me, I feel so much more secure knowing that my personal info has been wiped from the web, simply because I don't get all the robocalls, I worry far less about identity theft, and so much more. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now, at a special discount for our listeners, today get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting Jillian to 64000. The only way to get 20% off is to text Jillian to 64,000. That's Jillian to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. In fact, I use Shopify for pretty much all my online businesses, whether I'm selling organic superfood supplements like Alaya Naturals or fitness programs on 28 Shred. Shopify has me covered. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style. You can accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product's photography. You can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. You can easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling and strolling. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. So if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Jillian. Go to shopify.com/Jillian. That's shopify.com/Jillian.
You get into some stuff in here that I can't even wrap my head around. Can you talk a little bit about like the child soldiers piece?
Oh, yeah.
This is too hard to even comprehend. I've never heard of this. Like, you and I could go toe to toe on the Palisades fire, and trust me, we're homeless and losing $24 billion and corrupt NGOs and Newsom's connection to the CCP, all this stuff. I hate this guy. Yeah. And as a native Californian,
it's actually a tragedy, I think.
I couldn't agree with you more.
He had the potential to be great.
Oh God, I never saw that. Explain that. No, he's a sociopath.
But if it weren't for that, right?
Really?
He's extremely charismatic. He's intelligent.
Sociopath.
I know. That's what makes him evil. But he could have been a great moderate governor of this state, but he is captured by higher powers.
For sure. And he wants to be.
Yes.
I mean, the association with the Gettys and then marrying into Nancy Pelosi.
Yes, the Gettys can own him. They own him. They own the state, actually.
You want to go there for a second?
Let's child soldiers.
Okay.
Which one?
Newsom first.
Okay.
Then child soldiers.
Sure.
Tell me about that.
So California has effectively been run by four or five families for almost 100 years. And the Gettys have sponsored Gavin and Gavin's father going back to the 1940s.
Right.
They all live in an area of San Francisco called Pacific Heights. They all are intermarried. Nancy Pelosi is part of this milieu, and they sponsored Gavin's rise initially with his business in Napa, and then introduction to this kind of socio-political scene in San Francisco, and then positions. I don't remember if he went directly to mayor or if he was on the council, but at some point he's sponsored to mayor, and then so on and so forth. They're buying. Ultimately, they're trying to buy a president.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
And they've sponsored him all the way up the chain from, I think, council to mayor to lieutenant governor to governor.
Yes. And look, even Kamala is involved in this. She's godmother to one of the Gettys. And they, there's an alliance between sort of the old money in San Francisco and then the tech power. And unfortunately, California is now run entirely by San Francisco. Power used to be more dispersed, and we were a more moderate state. But when aerospace and defense left California, along with it, I believe like 300,000 engineers who are moderates, right, and typically vote Republican, LA County became blue, and the power, the locus of power shifted to San Francisco, and it's remained that way for at least 27 years.
He's like the Manchurian candidate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see it.
Yeah.
There's nothing this guy does that's real.
I know.
Everything is a lie or a facade or a bribe or a game. And I honestly can't think of a politician that I find more dangerous.
Yeah.
I really can't. When I am faced with future choices, and again, I stress the fact that when I am disappointed with things Trump does that I think unnecessarily ruffle feathers, it's because the risk of him pushing this pendulum back in the other direction is going to go.
That's a good point.
To the hands of Newsom and AOC and the Bernie. It's like, it's scary. People don't know what that means because they haven't lived here.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they have, then they're the ones that stayed. I mean, when you and I get to the fires, it's insane. Well, global warming. I'm like,
right. Well, Gavin's now trying to course correct because he's rebranding, right? So he vetoed this latest law that everyone was talking about recently related to soliciting sex from a minor.
I saw this.
Yeah,
yes.
It's kind of there's more nuance to it, but anyway, Gavin is was against that, and he's doing the pod to try and learn about conservatives, to learn how to counter them, of course. And he was trying to take a harder stance on homelessness and bring accountability. But it's just a rebrand. Just branding. Well, he's corporate.
Well, let's look at what he actually does.
Yeah.
So when it came to rolling back Proposition 47, which was the decriminalization of the $950 theft,
he was against that.
He was against it.
I know.
That was Prop 36, right? That was meant to roll back 47, and he opposed it.
I was surprised by that, actually.
Because who's paying him to oppose it?
Yeah,
that's the thing.
So that's...
Whenever you want to know why he's doing it, just look for the money.
Okay. So why is it that the money wants criminality to run wild? I have a theory, but I'd love to hear if you had an idea. Because
I've really tried to understand this, and it's the same thing as like the George Soros conversation.
Yes.
Why do you want lawlessness?
Yes.
Why do you want anarchy? Why do you want chaos? I've heard all different answers from very intelligent people. Tucker thinks it's demons. Anna Kasparian thinks it's good intentions have paved the path to hell. I've heard differing answers. It's got to be financially profitable somewhere. It's got to be profitable.
Yes.
That's the bottom line.
But I think it's also hate.
Really?
So here's why. I actually was thinking about this on the way over here, because it is the $64 million question, right? And so in my book, I discuss the idea of criminal justice reform and its history and how it applies to all these different laws and whatnot. But I came to a realization that ultimately, especially at the more extreme end of the criminal justice reform movement, you have an instinct to redistribute crime and suffering and invert justice as a form of reparations.
Oh.
I call this crime equity. And it has its roots historically, well, I should say philosophically, in critical race theory and kind of Marxist-Leninist theory.
Actually makes perfect sense, though.
But it also has historical precedents of its reparative justice, retributive justice. This has happened in, of course, Rhodesia and South Africa. And arguably it happened in the French Revolution. And that's what I wanted to get to, because the French Revolution, of course, was the bourgeoisie, the middle class, enacting their reparations through violence to restore justice against the nobility.
Right.
Here we have a situation where the nobility has turned against the bourgeoisie and the middle class. And I think that's quite unprecedented.
Do you think... Okay, now I'm going to wrap myself in tinfoil and go down the rabbit hole.
And there's also the money aspect is real estate, by the way.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it is.
That's what I was going to say, is that it's all a power, money, land grab. So, of course, you're going to turn on the middle class because they still own things.
Yes.
And you don't want that.
It's a land grab.
We want a whole generation of renters. We want complete and total control.
Yes.
And I know it sounds crazy,
you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but you're watching it happen.
RFK said the other day, or in an interview I thought was really profound, that by like 2030, perhaps even, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard may own like 60% of homes in the United States.
I was avoiding saying it because God help me with the friggin' algorithm. But there's no question that's happening. I mean, there's just no, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, when you look at who owns the defense companies? BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard.
Well, they own 89% of the S&P. And they own each other. So they are...
Chris, that's where I was going to go. I was going to go, have you ever looked at who owns BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard? Who owns Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock? It's this bizarre triad that's really one friggin' company.
Yeah, it's really frightening. And I'll tell you something else. When I was in the Commerce Department in the Trump administration the first time, we were asked by the president, my team, to look into U.S. institutional investments in China. So Chinese equities either in Hong Kong, Shenzhen, or Shanghai exchanges. The total value of those holdings by U.S. institutional investors at that time, that this was 2020, was, I think, $1.5 trillion. BlackRock was at the very top of that, followed by State Street and Vanguard.
Right.
BlackRock's holdings were over $300 billion in Chinese companies, many of which, at that time at least, were affiliated with advanced technologies, surveillance, military-related, so on and so forth. So they are underwriting the rise of our enemy. Well, I should say adversary. And there's a lot of dark angles to it. But in California, I do think if you destabilize communities, and especially like downtown areas, drop the value of those high rises or even single family homes, whatever, and buy them up at a discount, especially in like where it is like
where everything's burned down and you can't get a permit to rebuild.
Right, exactly. But who's able to get regulatory capture, right? It's not individuals or small businesses. It's big institutions. So,
I hate to think like that, but the problem is that you reach a point of inevitability where it somehow just doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah. Why would you wage a war on the middle class? Who does own this stuff? Who is behind this?
Stanford University was behind all of those laws that I mentioned, all of them. One guy in particular named Mike Romano. He's well known for spearheading the de-incarceration movement. And has done an enormous amount of damage. So why is it that Stanford is the progeny of this? Like, why?
I think they were behind the Virality Project. Lori, will you fact check that for me, Mama? So have you heard about the Virality Project? That's a study Bill Gates funded. I think it was through Stanford to suss out vaccine hesitancy online. It's the brief that landed on Biden's desk, and it's what he used to systematically silence people on Meta and X and
kidding.
TikTok. Nope. To go on with the stick, because I'm almost sure it's
look. I mean, let me give you some numbers here. So, the Ford Foundation donated $100 million in grants to decarceration and equity justice NGOs, in recent years. George Soros, he's obviously a known quantity. I even am hesitant to bring him up because it's like the boogeyman, right? It seems, but it's real. Yep. Like he put $40 million into district attorney races since 2015. And he did so because he's a brilliant arbitrager.
And Gascón's his guy as well, isn't he? Or was.
Yes, Gascón.
And when you say arbitrage, you're talking about sinking the currencies around the world?
Well, that is how, that's what he did in his investment business. But I believe he applied a form of that to DA races. In fact, I attribute it kind of almost to Moneyball.
Will you explain this to me?
Well, the idea that like Los Angeles County, the district attorney of Los Angeles County presides over the largest jurisdiction in the United States. The DAs have enormous amount of power because they have prosecutorial discretion. So when Gascón came into office, he issued a series of directives that did all sorts of terrible things, like related to cash bail, eliminating enhancements, which are ways to strengthen a conviction or sentencing, especially like for gangs or guns. He, of course, does not abide by anything related to 3 strikes, death penalty, and other initiatives and directives. But Soros spent, I think, $15 million on Gascón's race. But for $15 million, he got basically total control over the largest jurisdiction in the United States. And that's nothing for, obviously, it's a pittance. And actually, I have heard that his DAs basically had jurisdiction over like 2/3 of Americans. Like it's wild, like how successful it was. Now it happened in the shadow of George Floyd. A lot of terrible laws came into effect during that time and during COVID. But Soros pulled that off, and he realized that it's basically the idea that, so this is where it comes to arbitrage, right? So in arbitrage, you are buying, let's say you're trying to identify one commodity or one asset, and that is priced differently in another market, but it's the same asset. So right. So this is the basic idea. And with what how he sort of applied arbitrage here is he recognized, like, look, you could put in tens and tens of millions of dollars into a Senate race. And by the way, these Senate races are getting to the point of like $500 million.
Right. Wasn't Kamala's like almost $1 billion?
Yeah. The North Carolina race, John Thune was at a luncheon, said it's going to be $700 million.
Oh my God.
Okay, it's out of control. So you put that money into a huge amount of money into those kind of races.
Into buying a politician.
And what do you get actually? Not that much. Like, not that much. An individual senator doesn't have all that much authority, but DAs have a lot of power. They have a lot of power over like the lives of civilians. So then the question is, why does he want this? Why does he want to control, have so much authority to direct policies related to crime? And that's where I, again, come back to what's the motivation? And with Soros, I think he's a financial terrorist. I think that's very, very clear.
So explain to me exactly how it would benefit him. So what you're saying basically is he unleashes chaos and anarchy.
Yeah.
People leave, and then he can scoop up the real estate at a discount?
I have heard, well, I think that I theorize that could be a possibility. There's no way of knowing what kinds of investments he's making, because it's a family office, and these kinds of transactions happen through private placements and are very, very discreet through multiple layers of LLCs and so forth. But I have heard from, I heard from a senior guy in the security industry, a former federal head of federal security for LAX, and one of the top traders on Wall Street in the world, that Soros has been investing in private security for years, which is growing dramatically.
Oh my God. You know, I had a guy on, I don't know if you ever saw this documentary. It's called The Grab. And it has to do with different governments around the world grabbing up farmland. And it's happening here in California. And maybe you know that Gavin Newsom just blocked a bill that was meant to block that from happening here, so that China couldn't buy farmland in California.
Right.
And it was put on his desk. He vetoed it.
Yeah.
And this guy was saying,
the Chinese are also his sponsors.
I wanted to get into that with you as well. So we have so much to talk about. So what they're having to do is hire these like private military corporations, like Eric Prince, for example, to run security on these farms that are Chinese or Saudi in places like friggin' Arizona, California, and some countries in Africa. Like it's insane. It just I wonder if there's any association, because I remember
it's a growing industry. Many police officers are moving into it, because that's where the money is,
Yep,
of course. California, the rate for like a private security guard in California is 3 or 4 times what it is in New York. It's a big business, and it's growing. And you can imagine kind of a situation where if you create lawlessness and then decimate and vitiate public law enforcement, it will create a demand for a private solution.
Let's talk about the China piece for a second.
By the way, I lived in China for 2 years.
I know. You have a unique knowledge. Your background is crazy. You have a unique understanding of this. Could you highlight a little bit of your background? Because you're a journalist, but like in your spare time kind of a guy.
Yeah, I'm a full-time general counsel for a company, and I wrote this as a passion project because I just wanted to tell the story of the state. I love California. I almost think of myself as a Californian before an American, like in some ways, like Texans do. And I am heartbroken by what's happened. Like, this used to be such a great place. And like when my parents were, in their prime, like it was even more spectacular.
Yeah, it was.
So like, it's just tragic.
It is.
And it was so preventable.
But see, that's the thing. It happened to our state. Now I don't want it to happen to our country.
Yes.
And, I look.
If Kamala had won.
Oh my God.
It 100%. That's our fate.
What's insane is everybody I know who is terrified of Trump, they somehow don't see what's actually behind her. I'm like, she's not real. She's a puppet.
Exactly.
How do you not see what is behind her?
Exactly.
It's a facade. It's an illusion.
Exactly.
Just like Biden was non-compass mentis, whatever the hell.
Yes.
Nobody was home.
So you know what?
For 4 years.
You know what the takeaway from that is? So I even say in my book, this is like progressive ideology gone amok. I'm starting to think it's not progressive. I'm starting to think it's actually extreme reactionary. It's corporations.
Okay. The woke capitalism thing?
Well, it doesn't even necessarily have to be woke, right? It's just major, almost oligopolies or monopolies and power and the money interest, billionaire class, right, behind these people. Kamala Harris is not a real person.
No.
Gavin Newsom's not a real person.
Nope.
They represent the interests of their sponsors.
None of it's real. Exactly. And the more you say it,
that's not progressive.
Well, then what? That's where Cenk Uygur, as much as, you may disagree with him, I may disagree with him about things, he's been saying that on the left. So I try to get
left and right don't mean anything anymore.
No.
I don't know. I don't know where I am, frankly.
Fair point. Okay.
So China, I worked in China for 2 years as a senior investment banker at a Chinese state bank. So it was an investment bank that was attached to one of China's largest sovereign wealth funds called the SDIC, State Development Investment Corporation. And I was one of 2 Westerners at this 10,000 person bank. Only my team, I think, which was I worked in cross-border M&A. So this was 2016 to 18, kind of obviously before the relationship with China and the United States became much, much colder and more taut. But so I did this, and I'm probably one of the only Americans ever to have had that kind of a role. They're just, that kind of opportunity just does not exist anymore, right? After COVID, right? The integration of expats into places like Shanghai where I lived, it's just, they left. Xi, and this is kind of I think an argument for the power of individuals in history, right, versus trends. Xi changed the trajectory of China fundamentally. China was moving in a direction that was much more amenable to our system because the power in China used to be centered around Shanghai. And Shanghai is a commercial hub. It always has been. As a result, it is more moderate. It is less Maoist. But Xi comes from, Xi is one of the original families from the revolution, but he is a Beijing guy. So as Beijing and Xi pushed the Shanghai division out and then consolidated power, we have a very different, much scarier China. That's when I left.
Active Skin Repair utilizes a molecule called hypochlorous acid. And when you apply it to the skin, the molecule works by mimicking the natural immune response to cleanse, soothe irritation, reduce inflammation, and support healing. Active Skin Repair can be used to treat a wide range of skin issues, including cuts, scrapes, burns, sunburns, diaper rashes, and other types of skin damage. And it's also safe and non-toxic, making it suitable for use on all skin types, all parts of the body, and you can even use it on rosacea, eczema, and acne-prone skin. With over 500,000 happy customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and ingredients so safe and clean they can be used by the youngest member of the family to the oldest, you now have one simple solution for all of your family's skin health needs. So visit ActiveSkinRepair.com to learn more about Active Skin Repair and to get 20% off your order. Use the code Jillian. Again, that's activeskinrepair.com, and the code is Jillian. Has this summer been a bit of a grind? Are you sleeping less? Are you more stressed than ever? Nonstop everything? I speak for myself when I say that. And behind the highlight reels, I think that not just me, but pretty much all high-functioning people are quietly burning out. Low energy, fragile mood, decrease in libido. This is why I like Function Health, because it's the one platform that gives you access to real data. 160 plus biomarkers, plus full body MRIs and CT scans, hormones, inflammation, heart, liver, stress, all tracked over time in one place. And you're going to see what most people never do, like how your cortisol impacts your metabolism and your immunity, or how your testosterone and DHEA, your vitamin D, magnesium levels affect your mood, your energy, your skin, your sex drive. Even your breakouts are not just skin deep. And Function shows you the internal causes. This is why top health experts like Mark Hyman and Andrew Huberman, Jeremy London, they all back Function, because it's a near 360-degree view of your health finally in your hands. So learn more and join using my link. The first 1,000 people get a $100 credit toward their membership. Just visit www.functionhealth.com/Jillian or use the gift code Jillian at sign up to own your health.
I don't know. See, as you're sitting there talking, I was like, I got to learn all about the history of this. All I know is like communist China in the 70s, somewhere thought it was getting better. Now it's super, super scary again.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to go off piste. So the Newsome connection, though, no one ever talks about.
Yeah.
So if I want to throw out what
the head of the CalPERS, the pension fund, a former head was a Chinese government official. Like he worked on like in fund management in China for like a state entity.
Here's what I know, and tell me what I'm missing or what I'm wrong on. He's mayor of San Francisco, and he ends up starting this partnership from when he had some sort of business relationship with the Chinese and the billionaire investors, this guy Vincent Lo, and it's called China SF. So China SF is this partnership between San Francisco and China under the pretense of bringing, opening up these industries to one another. But the long story short is the guys that are involved in this, like this guy Vincent Lo, or Chinese billionaires that are directly connected to the CCP. And what he ends up doing is basically clearing the path for them to buy up real estate and land in California.
Yeah.
And he even says, then he becomes governor. And the long and the short of it is, their mission is to clear out any red tape and any bureaucracy for them to come and invest in California and buy land in California. And then sure enough, years later, when the bill ends up on his desk to veto foreign companies or foreign countries, in particular foreign countries, obviously, from buying land in California, he's like, no, vetoes it and they can continue buying up land here.
Can you imagine so our biggest exports to China are like soybeans, right? Can you imagine if like they controlled they owned like our agriculture in addition to selling us all of our industrial inputs,
pharmaceuticals? Yes,
I know, it's crazy,
Chris.
It's beyond
no
belief.
one's talking about it. I heard about it.
I think Scott Besson is
really.
I think this administration gets it.
Okay,
I think they do.
I'm circling back off of my Newsome tirade.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Look into it.
Yeah.
Look into it.
China
kind of makes
sense. I mean, we saw like the rollout when Xi came to San Francisco.
Exactly. The writing is all on the wall.
All the homeless gone.
Yep.
Gone.
Yep. It's all there. I'm telling you, when you start to connect the dots.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second. And then there was corruption and these people from China SF are connected to the CCP. And then some of the people that were under his...
China has a very strong hold over California.
Why is no one talking about...
And of course, they're supplying like the precursors for the fentanyl that are 90% of which are coming into California. Right. So
which
they're
Newsom
really...
never addresses.
Yeah, I mean, they have us like... by every angle.
Well, so talk to me. Now I've got it. There's my bridge. Child soldiers?
Okay.
Because there's a TikTok connection. So like I got this from you last week.
Yeah.
And was able to scan through some of the notes, but I was like, okay, hold on. Note to talk about child soldiers and TikTok. Like, what?
So let me explain the methodology of my book and my research. I conducted over 30 hours of interviews with prosecutors, ranging from, junior prosecutors up to former district attorney Steve Cooley. And I talked to police officers and law enforcement ranging from beat cops all the way to Tom Homan. And one of the most interesting interviews that I conducted was with the lead gang investigator for Inglewood PD. This is African-American gentleman, grew up in that neighborhood, is a former special forces, like Army, serious guy, did missions in Africa, and has been working for Inglewood PD on gang stuff for 25 years. He told me many frightening and scary and shocking things, but one of the most shocking was that he believes that the crime wave, especially relating to these sort of property crimes, that is entirely fueled by kids. So the reason that is the case is because, and well, look,
kids like my kids,
gangs are recruiting children as young as 10 years old for hijackings, assault, and even murder. Assassinations, actually.
When you say gangs, are you talking about like Mexican cartels?
No, not necessarily.
Dr. Phil said something about like, oh, if you want to try. He told me.
I think this is probably more the black gangs.
Okay.
I haven't looked at the. I mean,
like the Crips and the Bloods kind of a thing.
Yeah. Look, Black and Hispanics represent 80% of like juvenile prosecutions in California. So, but the reason this has happened is because, again, policy. We shut down juvenile prisons, juvenile detention centers several years ago. We also implemented certain laws like Proposition 57, which came after 47 by, I think, 2 years, where the decision to try a juvenile as an adult shifted from prosecutors to judges. And the judge, there's a lot of bad judges in California, a lot of bad judges. Newsome judges.
Okay.
Right?
I was going to say bad meaning.
Well, like a friend of mine, a deputy DA in Oakland who has just the craziest stories. I mean, she said, like, California is filled with, like, liberal AF judges, right? Like, that is...
like the kind that lets the illegal gang member out the jury door to run from ICE kind of.
I mean, look, we elect judges for one thing. I mean, that's just weird. That's another issue. So in any case, gangs like Soros play arbitrage, and they recognize that because the enforcement of justice against juvenile offenders has basically stopped, they're the perfect recruits.
So hold on. Wait, let me back up so I really understand this. I apologize. Okay, I'm a kid. I rape someone. I stab someone, but they don't die. I'm 14 years old. There's no juvenile hall anymore?
Juvenile hall's over.
Well, what?
Yeah.
So what happens?
Well, for a lot of
you can't go back into Gen Pop.
For a lot of these incidents, assaults, robberies, whatever, they are simply tried over and over and over again because they keep committing the crimes.
But you're guilty. You stabbed so and so.
Right.
There's no.
The juvenile. I was shocked to learn this.
Wait, hold on.
Juvenile.
I'm not understanding you.
Yeah.
You're saying they go back on the street?
Yeah.
Chris, that's not even. Are you? I mean, of course you. Are you serious?
That's what all of the police officers told me, and that's what the prosecutors told me too. And the data supports that. So that is why, and like, so this particular officer said to me, like, snatching Rolexes off of like people's wrists in Beverly Hills. He said that is all kids, all minors. But here's the dark part. Like, they're not, again, like these retail thefts, like the storming of Nordstrom's or whatever. It's not Les Miserables, okay? This is organized crime. Right. It's organized crime in particular because the Mexican drug cartels have taken over the dope trade in California, and they did so sometime in the late 2000s. And the Mexicans said to the legacy black gangs that would fight corner to corner for the dope trade, they said, if you sell dope, we will cut your head off if you do so without our permission. And they meant it, and they did it. So black gangs moved from narcotics to residential burglary, to retail theft, to sex trafficking, and other criminal verticals. But the Mexican drug cartels control the entire criminal economy of California because, amazingly, organized crime all passes through state prisons. And the prisons, as I was told by numerous officers, prisons ruled the street. The prisons population is like, I think, 100,000 in California.
It seems like nothing.
Yeah, but
is that high?
I mean, there's like 300,000 gang members in California.
Okay.
Okay. The Army National Guard is less than that.
Okay.
It's a lot. And over 50% are Hispanic. And in the prisons, because of their numerical superiority, a gang called, an American-born gang, mind you, but a gang called the Mexican Mafia controls the state prisons. They just control them. The Mexican Mafia is a vassal of the drug cartels.
Okay.
So the syllogism is the cartels control these Latino street gangs. They all report to the Mexican Mafia.
Yep.
And the Mexican Mafia reports to the drug cartels.
But how? Okay, forgive me. I'm a complete idiot here. How do they gain control of the prisons?
Exactly. That is the operative question. That is the operative question. It appears
prisons
they're able
in California privatized or state run? They're
state run.
Okay. So then
prison guards are a very powerful union, and it's a dangerous job. Like they get murdered in jail, but the fact is that the smuggling of phones into the prisons is just so rampant that it allows them to facilitate hits from inside the jails.
Okay, yeah. Well, that I can completely understand.
And the other factor is as an LA County sheriff told me is like the justice that these gangsters fear is not LA Superior Court. It's the Mexican Mafia inside the jails, inside prison, because the prisons rule the street.
Chris, this is crazy. So they go out of their way to recruit kids because kids don't have real consequences.
Correct. There is a story of, I forget exactly when it was, I think within 10 years, there was a low-level rapper, who from Vegas, I think, who was had his car parked in, I think, over by LAX. And a 14-year-old comes up to the window of his car and assassinates him. He then gets in his getaway car, which is driven by his dad.
No.
Yeah. It's savage. It is a savage out there. It is child soldiers. These are not, I don't know what else to call it, frankly. I mean, that is what we're facing.
Why are we not hearing about this? This is news to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I said, I thought I would go toe to toe with you on California.
I know. It's just not being reported. People don't know. People do not know how bad it is yet. I don't know a single person, and you're now another person I know, who has not been victimized by crime.
Oh, God.
Everyone has. Everyone. My friend, my lawyer, had his car stolen last week. Just a Toyota. Like, Joaquin Phoenix had his car stolen a few days ago. Like, it's everyone. Everyone is touched by it. I've actually, a few years ago, I was in my friend's place where there's like 5 or 6 of us, and a masked man actually just entered the dining room and stole my friend's purse right in front of us, and then took off like it was nothing. And it's everywhere. Like, it's like the statistical probability that I would experience that, and then the robberies, like, you would think would be so high, but yet it's not, because the crime is so prevalent. In fact, as one LA County sheriff told me, he said, look, 25 years ago, the gangsters were killing each other for control over street corners. Today, they're targeting all of us, all the time, everywhere. And to add to that, a director of the LAPD union told me he tells everyone, don't come to LA. We cannot protect you.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he lives in Ventura.
You know what's crazy is you're not even allowed to protect yourself in California.
Exactly.
Whereas,
yeah, exactly.
DeSantis, I remember, unfortunately, I can't fact check this exactly, but I remember during COVID that when businesses were being, pillaged and plundered and so on and so forth, in Florida, they were like, go ahead, shoot them.
Yeah.
And, in California,
I think there was a little bit of that during the fires, though. I felt that was look, I saw a different police force during the fires. They were like the police. They were like the LAPD of the 90s. I was really impressed in Santa Monica.
Okay. The fires.
Yeah.
Let's do that one.
Yeah.
So that I was out here for New Year's. My mom lives in Brentwood. My kids were here visiting family, the whole thing. And I'm at the frickin' gym right on Sunset and Pacific Coast Highway, which is exactly where the fire starts. Mm. And I'm thinking, we've known there's going to be winds for days. Like, of course there's going to be a fire. They'll be on top of it. My wife is like, we got to go. There's a fire. I was like, I go into the sauna. I'm like, no. They'll get there. They're going to be, they know, they're prepared. They'll put it out. Long story short, they're supposed to be there in 4 minutes. They claim they were there in 7 minutes, but there's video footage that no one shows up for 45 minutes. And having been in that spot, I did a complete workout and did the sauna for 20 minutes, and the fire did nothing but grow.
Yeah.
Now, for a fact that the mayor knows this, leaves the state. The governor knows this, doesn't borrow firefighters from elsewhere, despite the fact that they also know they've taken like 20-something million. I can't
15 million.
15 million away from the fire department.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is actually a lot of money for firefighters, because that directly relates to equipment.
There's broken down fire engines.
Yes.
Nothing's working.
I was told there were firefighters who didn't even have axes.
No.
Yeah.
It's like they can't do their job at all. The friggin' reservoir that's uphill.
San Ynez.
Right. So because
7 months it had been dry.
For a cover that has never even begun to be repaired.
Yeah. A cover.
I mean, Chris.
And the head of the DWP, Janice Quinones, I think her name is, friend of Karen Bass, she makes $750,000 a year. Okay. Her prior job to that was at, what is it? PG&E?
The utility that burned down my house.
that literally incinerated and immolated, I think, like 75 people in Paradise.
Yep, that was the fire that I lost.
So, she does have, I guess, experience.
And the fact, what's even crazy...
She was just a DEI hire. It's just...
But Chris...
Yeah.
It just goes to show the revolving door, though.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when you go to work for, let's say, Pfizer and end up at the FDA.
Yeah.
And then back over to Pfizer. It's the same story. You work for the State Department, you work for the military-industrial complex.
It's monopolies. It's just a concept of monopoly because we are in a one-party state. It's a monopoly. So there is not accountability.
None.
And when you're talking about the military-industrial complex, that's also a monopoly.
Right. Of
the Defense Department and these companies. Like, it's the same.
It's the same three companies.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, left-right doesn't mean anything anymore.
No, it doesn't. Well, the only reason it means something is because we cannot unite on fighting back.
Yeah, I know.
Because we're so busy fighting each other.
On, like, trans stuff.
I know. Or Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Yeah.
I literally went through a few days where I wasn't talking to family members about Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
It's just a distraction.
I cannot wrap my head around it. And it's like, they don't see how all of this is being manipulated and how all of these policies are facilitating this chaos.
Look,
instead, it's like, he's a Maryland man. I've had this conversation 20 times because I can't have it enough because it's so freaking crazy to me. Oh, no, it's the 100-mile-an-hour winds. No. It's the $10 hook from the PG&E fire that was 100 years old that they wouldn't replace because they're one of the top contributors to Newsom's campaign and they don't have to and they had no repercussions because of that started the fire in the first place. Or the meth addict that started the fire because you haven't dealt with the homelessness crisis. And then,
almost all these fires, like the vast majority are human start.
Right.
A lot of them are homeless. But the fact is that we do not do brush control in this state. It takes like 4 to 7 years to get a permit to do brush control, forest management. Look, Montana is very dry and has a lot of trees. They do not have these fires. Now, yes, the Santa Ana winds are a phenomenon, and but we've always had them.
Yes,
you can. In my book, I go through like diaries of cavalry officers from like 1870 who talk about the Santa Ana winds. Joan Didion as very eloquently talks about how the Indians would like jump into would migrate east to the ocean, right?
Yes.
To get away from these winds. We know about the winds. So if you know about a problem, you have to prepare for it.
I know. Oh my God.
And yet,
I know.
And yet, Mayor Bass is in Ghana.
I know.
For an inauguration to spur Ghana business development in Los Angeles. She's beyond belief. She's a clown.
I couldn't agree with you more. And the part that's even crazier to me is that the only area where red tape has been cut, and I don't think I can lay this squarely at Newsom's feet, but sure, they've gotten like some of the cleanup done because the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, I guess, is working on the cleanup, and FEMA designated them to do it, but there's no soil testing required. And some people have independently done soil testing. So they're only taking off the top layer of soil and it's like 100 times more toxic than any acceptable level of like lead, arsenic, all these environmental chemicals. Chris, I don't know. The only thing I can hope and pray is that we have these conversations. And when these individuals, when she goes to run for governor, or when he goes to run for president, people kind of vaguely remember, or hopefully God read your book.
So Newsom's like core issue, right, is global warming and the environment. The fires, which could have been prevented, produced so much toxicity that the sun turned bright red. I live next to the Palisades. I was a block away from the evacuation zone. I watched it. It was apocalyptic, to say the least. The Palisades don't exist anymore.
I know.
They were flattened as if like by an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And the air was acrid and toxic for days. I couldn't breathe well.
A
lot of people couldn't.
It will be arguably for years.
So you talk
won't
about
even
like
smell it.
Environmentalism.
Yeah.
How is the policies that led to this environmentalism? Because I consider myself environmentalist, and I don't, Newsom, like, put up or shut up. Like,
I was told that the amount of CO2 that was released in the fires rolls back like 20 years.
Of course.
I hate this guy so much. I could talk to you for hours about it. But I want to get to something else. And
I have a couple details, though, on the fires you should know, though.
Please. I was going to say, because literally I could keep you for a full day. But that's why you wrote a book, and that's why people need to read it. And I got more I need to cover, but tell me.
I just want to say 2 anecdotes, though. Firstly, 150 looters were chased out of Santa Monica in the couple days of the first few days of the fires.
I forgot this.
My brother's actually encountered some very scary gangsters, like just near our parents' house in North Santa Monica. There were 44 arrests. These were hardened gangsters, like the type that we've been talking about, who came into these evacuation zones to pillage. I heard a story of a family who had to evacuate Mandeville Canyon. Mandeville Canyon was considered like the last line of defense against the fire moving east and then across the rest of the city. Now, Mandeville Canyon was not destroyed, but it was evacuated. And while they were in evacuation, they had their security cameras on their and linked to their phone. They watched a crew of gangsters descend upon their house and for 4 hours dismantle it. And the viciousness was so awful that they literally took pictures, family pictures, out of the frames and ripped them up.
I would shoot them.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I would shoot them.
Now, here's one other.
And if somebody did, this would start to stop.
Here's one other thing. I learned from a classified report that during the fires, there was a attack on a Army Reserve base in Tustin. 3 Humvees were stolen, machine gun turrets, bayonets, night vision goggles.
What?
And they just made off with it. Who would do that? Who would have the ability to do that kind of a raid? To me, that sounds very cartel-like.
Are you kidding?
No, it's real. Not reported.
But since I classified, how is that allowed? Classified by who?
I'm just one of my sources showed me, and
Chris,
yeah,
this is crazy. Yeah. It's
way, way darker than people realize.
It's like it is so much darker and so much deeper.
Yeah.
Than anybody can possibly comprehend.
Yeah.
Okay. Available everywhere.
Yes.
We're not done though.
I know.
I need
to
talk about
lining that up.
We're not done. This is so extensive. There's so much we didn't touch on, but that's why you have to get the book.
Thank you.
And I personally cannot wait to dig in and pour over page by page.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.